Hello. Is it ever right for a Christian to engage in mockery? That's a very interesting question. Our Lord himself looks as if he's used mockery. He called Herod Antipas a fox. And by that, if you look at Herod's way of doing things, he was a very destructive individual. And if you've ever seen what a fox does to a chicken coop, which is actually quite horrible, because it will slaughter all the chickens, whether it's just only wanting one or not. Our Lord, in calling Herod a fox, is making a very clear statement that he knows that Herod is trying to kill him, and in that particular passage in Luke, I think it's Luke chapter 13, I think, where Herod is, people are telling our Lord that that Herod's trying to kill him, and our Lord says effectively, well, yes, he's a destroyer, but look what's going to happen. He's going to try and destroy me. And he makes a prediction about his impending crucifixion, death, and resurrection. So we might say, well, is Jesus mocking Herod? It's very difficult to say whether mockery is ever a good idea. We can look again at Elijah taunting the prophets of Baal to give them a sacrifice, because he is exposing their godlessness, the falseness of the God. He's making it absolutely clear. Likewise, we can hear our Lord call the Pharisees and scribes hypocrites, because that's what they are. But are we engaging in mockery here? So we have to ask ourselves, well, what's mockery for? And mockery is obviously when we make remarks about another person, the intention of making them a laughing stock. I've always thought that a joke is only ever really properly a joke when it is funny to anyone who hears it. Mockery clearly isn't, because it's designed to prod, to provoke another person, to hurt their feelings. So the question is that ever right? Recently, the church in Wales have elected Cherry Van to be their archbishop, and she's a partnered lesbian. And there were all kinds of deeply unkind posts on Facebook, particularly from people who ought to know better, who said, "Oh, she looks like a man, so she's trying to be a man anyway." And I thought to myself, well, why do that? What's the point? What do we hope to get out of mocking someone, either directly or indirectly? Would we say what we say to their face rather than do it online? Again, and I've spoken again before about this sort of cloud of anonymity that the internet gives us. We can say things and somehow not be accountable for them. But should we mock? Sometimes it's difficult not to, because we see something utterly ridiculous. Someone saying or doing something utterly ridiculous and trying to impose that view upon us all when it is manifestly wrong. But we are told to speak the truth in love. And one of the priests whose rude comments about Cherry Van I saw said, "I'm speaking the truth. I'm speaking the truth, and you can't criticize me for that because I'm right." And I did think to myself, well, again, what was your purpose? What does your mockery actually do? Does it bring about love? Does it demonstrate your will that Cherry Van should be perfected in God? Do you want, I want to say to this priest, do you want Cherry Van to go to heaven? And if he thinks that mocking her will somehow make her change her mind, we know for a fact that doesn't happen. It gets people's backs up. It's one thing to be provocative, and certainly our Lord was very, very provocative, but we have to remember our Lord is somewhat special because he backs everything up with miracles, and he has an authority, an authentic authority that comes from himself. Time and again in the scriptures it says he speaks with an authority that no one's seen before. Can we Christians honestly do that? Well, again, I sort of hear our Lord saying that wonderful phrase, before you take the speck out of your brother's eye, take the beam that's out of your own. And again, judge not, lest ye be judged. For in the manner that you judge, you shall be judged. So if we judge out of harshness, out of an air of moral superiority, then we are no better than the Pharisees, and we would be judged in that way. Judgment must be in love. We seem to have, again, there's a very Protestant understanding of judgment, of the law court. If we turn the idea of judgment round and see it as that desire to make things good, to make things true, to make things loving, to make things beautiful, if we see that idea of judgment, then I think it colours out the way that we interact with other people, that we should be very, very careful when we try to use mockery for a rhetorical effect. Indeed, I think I would honestly say that it would be better that if one is going to engage in mockery, that we do so staring at our intended victim, staring them in the eye, rather than behind a keyboard, which is rather more cowardly. Could we do that? And again, we remember the Lord saying about all those things when you're calling a brother a fool, you're in danger of hellfire. Say to your brother, "Rakha," putting yourself in for the judgment. Our Lord's very clear that our intention for our neighbour, for our brother, for our sister, must always be for their good. And that, there is mockery that's acceptable in my view. I mean, I'm roundly mocked for being clumsy, but I recognise that in myself. It's something I don't. If you've ever seen me with a thurible, you'll know that I'm quite happy to be mocked for that, because it's not my forte. Sensing an altar is not my forte. But I acknowledge that, and so to mock me for that, I see it as a sign of camaraderie. That there is this thing called banter, which does exist, and I think is healthy because it means that we don't take life, don't take myself too seriously. But at the same time, I know who's mocking me, and the people who are mocking this, I love them dearly, because I know that they're saying something that's true, but is not. We know there is that relationship whereby we know that it is a light-hearted and there is no malice meant at all. But it's when we have that sort of fury, when we mock someone out of fury, out of frustration. And so I think it's actually less cowardly to refrain from mocking someone than it is to engage in mocking someone on a keyboard where you cannot engage the person you're mocking face to face. Our remit should always be love. There's nothing that should be what motivates us, because love comes from God. God is love, and we tell the truth in love. We tell the truth in God, with God holding us by the hand and showing us the truth and telling that truth. There are things that the world doesn't want to hear, and we know that. But we still need to tell that truth in love, in a way that seeks to edify, to bring health, not in the position of moral superiority. For no one should be morally superior to anyone else. We all fall short of the moral law somewhere online. But it's recognizing that we all fall short of the moral law and holding on to Christ, holding on to his word, holding on to the morals of the church, holding on to that divine law that God gives us through his revelation. So before we think about mocking someone, we really do need to sort of sit down and think to ourselves, do I really need to say that? Do I really need to make that pointed comment? Do I really need to attempt to burst that person's bubble? Some people do need that, it's very true. But God should guide us, and the love of God should be present with us in all the words that we speak. As St. James says, the tongue is just a tiny little thing, but like a rudder on the ship, it steers us in some very troubled waters. So God bless you. God bless you if you are the subject of mockery. God bless you, and show you your worth in him is greater than your perception that comes from being mocked. God show you that you are truly lovable and have a dignity that cannot be taken away. God bless you if you feel a compulsion to mock someone, to tell them how silly they're being. God show you the way to do that in love, and with a view to that person's perfection. And God bless you that all of us silly little human beings in our fallen state, redeemed, sanctified, justified and glorified in God, we may stand before him in worship and truth. God bless you, and please pray for me.